This is going to be the wildest Africa video so far. We are entering Kalahari Desert, solving some serious problems, meeting the real wild side and a sad side, and sleeping under the stars. Welcome to part 4 of the Africa series. After spending the last 5 days in Pridelands camp, it was time to head further north to Johannesburg.
We're just leaving Pridelands right now. It was awesome to be back, and then also I think Levi has really enjoyed to be here. So just thanks again to make that possible for us, and I send you my best wishes for yourself, for your family, but also for eco training.
It took us around 7 hours to drive to Johannesburg, where we had one night off. After repacking all our gear and a few hours of sleep, it is 3 a.m. Here we go again, after less than 1.5 hours of sleep. On this day, another long drive was ahead of us, further north towards Kalahari. We both were in a very good mood and excited to explore the new area. But then suddenly, somewhere in the nowhere in the northern part of South Africa, not too far away from Kalahari, our car got an issue and we ended up here. Once again, we had bad luck and found some great mechanics in the city, but they told us that they need at least 2 days to fix the problem. We needed to search an accommodation for the night, and we found a small cabin on a farm outside of the village. We both were just very lucky to have found a nice accommodation for this night. But quickly I made a heartbreaking discovery. This one serval, which was caged in just a few square meters, made a very bad sight for me. Because we anyway had one day off at this farm, I made the decision to spend some hours next to this serval. Let me show you some pictures I took from this serval, because I want to talk a little bit more about this discovery. The serval is a mid-sized cat that lives in Central and South Africa. Their territories are about 12 square kilometers. Keeping such an animal in only a few square meters of a cage is detrimental to its physical and mental well-being. However, I don't want to blame anyone in this case, because this is not a single case, as the laws in South Africa regarding the keeping of wildlife are very insufficient, and countless wild animals live under similar circumstances. I always knew this, but it was still an intense moment to see it with my own eyes. I would have loved to help this individual, and it showed me once again that whenever possible, nature is the only right place for wildlife. Already on the same day, we got the great news from the mechanics that they had fixed the problem of our car and that we could make it towards Kalahari. The great mood was definitely back, and we couldn't wait to make it finally into the Kalahari. It was already dark when we drove along this road, and we suddenly came along this shocking scene. Being somewhere in the bush, far away from the nearest civilization, seeing this car at the side of the road was so unexpected that we needed a second to understand and react to the situation. Some hours ago, these two guys lost control of their car and had an accident. Luckily, they only got some scratches, and after a few hours of waiting, we were the first to come along this road. Ananda had the right equipment to get their car back on track, and they were able to drive back to the next city.
Yeah, you have a story to tell now.
Yes. A story to tell. Yes. I'm gonna need pictures.
Yeah. Sure. Cool. Sorry for that, That
Thanks,
hurts,
man.
I know.
In the meantime, we drove further towards the Kalahari, where we built up our tent somewhere in the nowhere and enjoyed a nice dinner after one of the most intense days of the trip.
Oh, das ist so geil. Das ist einfach wie wenn du rauspennst.
The first interesting place inside the national park was this waterhole, where we decided to stay for some time and wait to see if any wildlife would show up. We spent the whole afternoon with several lion families next to the waterhole before we drove to our next and first camp inside the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park. In this camp, we were completely by ourselves, and it wasn't more than just a place for our car and a place for our tent. So it was a very intense feeling to be somewhere in the African bush just by ourselves. Well, not really just by ourselves. Especially this Cape fox must have been used to find some leftovers from the humans at the camp, and he joined us the whole evening. After a nice breakfast, we went for a short bushwalk. One thing I enjoyed most about this trip was having Ananda always by my side. During his guiding course, he learned everything about Africa's wildlife, and for me, there was always so much to learn. I loved these small bushwalks. The feeling of standing on the ground is just so much better than sitting in a car for days. And having someone like Ananda as my teacher made it an unforgettable experience. After a very relaxed morning at this camp, it was time to drive towards our next camp for the next night.
Das ist